the first thing they say to you about electronics?
I'm gonna guess probably say stop watching them.
Get off of all of it. You need to allow the brain to heal. So to answer your question, I'm including everything. TV, dumb phone, as I call it, social media, Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram, gaming, all of it. And one of the things that we've seen, particularly in the last 6-7 years, is unfortunately we have children that are on 6 to 8 hours a day.
Wow.
And it's even escalated in this last 6 months because of COVID.
Right.
Now, what happens is there's 3 things that I've seen. One, because the blue light off that device, it depletes melatonin. And if you're depleting melatonin, what's going to happen to your sleep at night?
Oh, you can't sleep very well at all.
Right. Now, what's that going to do the following day?
Oh, you're going to be grumpy, miserable, unable to focus, and trying to take stimulants to stay awake.
And if a psychiatrist is not asking that question, and what I've seen is more screen time, what they have to do is, the other thing that it does, if you literally were in a functional MRI and you were doing Minecraft, you'll see the area of the brain that lights up. And particularly it'd be the prefrontal cortex. That's the area of the brain that's responsible for executive functioning, decision making, impulse control, attention. Now, if you're doing this every day, right, and then now all of a sudden you have to go into the boardroom or the classroom, and you've been doing this mental marathon every day, guess what's going to happen? There's no gas in the tank, and people are going to have difficulty focusing. And this is the third one for me, Trevor. I get really passionate about this, is a lot of these companies, they put rewards into the games. If you get to this stage, and what happens is the brain gets a reward and it likes it, and guess what it wants?
Wants to achieve it again. Wants to get that same reward.
And it's literally digital heroin. And if parents are, they turn around and say, okay, you have to come off, and the kids are very emotional. Right there's a telltale sign that they're not just psychologically, but physiologically addicted. And so to offset that, I've seen where they might start off with 20 milligrams of Adderall. But if the gaming keeps going up, guess what they have to do to offset it?
Man, up the dose.
Right. And I find that, and I've said this, and I might get publicly backlash for this, but if a psychiatrist is not asking in that ADD assessment how much screen time this person, I think they're being unethical. I think it's an issue that has to be addressed. The other thing, we have to look at the quality of sleep. I just took a course myself just in the last few months with a very well-known breath expert, Patrick McEwen from Ireland. And he had taught a type of breathing called the Patoiko breathing. And it became, I had no idea. I knew sleep was important, but I had no idea that over half of ADD children are mouth breathers at night. And if you're not looking at the sleep pattern, and ever since I've learned about this, I've brought this into our clinic. This is what I think makes us different, because we have to look at it, not just, okay, I often say this to my clients, well, it'd be just as arrogant for me to say do neurofeedback as to take this pill and your life would be better.
Right.
We have to look at it more from a holistic point of view. So neurofeedback, cognitive perceptual training, they're very powerful tools, but they're only a tool. And we have to address these other factors. If children are not drinking a lot of water, particularly in Edmonton, it's a very dry climate.
Yeah, it really is.
And my experience working with the military, working with the bomb squad, well, if you become 1% dehydrated, you'll lose almost 25% of your eye-hand coordination. And literally right now, I don't know how much water you drink in a day, but I would argue that a lot of people don't drink enough good, clean water. And a lot of my ADD clients come in, you'll hear them, they don't drink a lot of water. The quality of their food is literally medicine. And so when we're doing our ADD assessment, I know that more and more psychologists are starting to ask these questions.
That's good.
And I think it's critical that they do ask these questions, because we have to get a holistic point of view. Because if someone's gaming 8 hours a day, it can actually, the neurofeedback may not work, because what it's doing is it's offsetting what we're trying to do. So these are questions that I think need to be answered in that initial assessment, and I think parents and children need to be aware of that.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. So if medications are effective in treating ADHD, let's just
And they are.
Okay.
And they are.
Then why would someone choose the non-pharmaceutical method of treatment? So what are the benefits, either way?
Okay.
Obviously, it's not one brush for everything.
Right. So one of the things, I've been accused of being anti-pharmaceutical,
Sure.
and I'm not. There's a time and a place for medication. And for some people, like if I have a university student who's got an exam in April, and they come to me with only 2 months, ADD again is not a psychological, it's a neurological. So it has to be addressed. So even if people don't do our program, they will need something to have the brain function better. What I would say is, and again, I might be getting myself into trouble here. I've had 10 knee surgeries. And so if I take a Tylenol, does it make my knee feel better?
Sure.
Yes. But am I getting to the underlying root cause of what's going on?
No.
No. And so medication works. It wakes up the brain to allow that person to regulate their attention and regulate their mood more efficiently, because they're more aware, they're more awake. But I personally think it's treating the symptom. It's not getting to the root cause. And so one of the reasons why a lot of our clients come, I've had several, just to give you an example, where I've had females who had ADD, they wanted to have a child, and they didn't want to be taking that medication.
Right.
So they wanted to look for a natural, non-pharmaceutical approach to providing symptom resolution and permanent symptom resolution. So one of the things a lot of people come, that's one of the reasons. They've been on ADD medication and they really don't like how they feel on it. If someone has, this is not everybody, but if they also have high levels of anxiety, and if you give a psychostimulant to already an over-aroused brain, I've had people come in and go, John, I'm focused, but I just feel like on edge. I just feel hyperactive, like I feel hypervigilant. And so they don't like that feeling. We've had lots of, I've mentioned this to you before, where people, they can't get to sleep. Their child is just not eating. Like they can't, like no matter what they do, they're not eating. So those are one of the reasons why people are coming, because they just don't like how they feel on that medication. And I've had other people where they say they don't want to be reliant on it. That's not who they are.
Right.
They don't want to be reliant on a substance. They want to be able to do it on their own. And that's why we've had a lot of people come to look for our approach.
Excellent. Well, that's a really good reason why someone would not want to go down the pharmaceutical pathway, and why someone may want to choose, using pharmaceuticals for the depending on the circumstance, right? So the next question is, what does the assessment look like at Zone Psychology? Yeah,
great question. So it's typically can range anywhere from 3 to 4 hours, depending on how someone's doing. But we use a series, like we do a clinical interview, we do all the questionnaires, how long, what are been some of the things, how this has affected the person, whether it be academically, professionally, business, in their relationships. But then the other thing that we do is now we use very sophisticated technology to measure brain functioning. Okay. So we will do several computerized tests to measure overall cognitive capacities. And then we do the QEEG, the brain scan. And the brain scan really allows us to see what's truly going on in the brain. And then we have other equipment like the synaptic and the neuro tracker that allow us to measure brain processing speed, working memory. So when someone comes and they come back and we do the report of findings, I can literally objectively show. So for example, with the IVA, it literally measures auditory and visual focus. So for example, with the IVA, every time a person hears the number 1, they're to respond to it quickly. If they hear the number 2, they're to leave it alone. And we can literally see on a graph. So for example, and I'll put this forth to you, see what you see. So let's say, one time a client responds 250 milliseconds, but then the next time they respond 1400 milliseconds. What's going on?
Loss of attention.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when we can objectively see that, so if it literally plots out their correct responses. And if we see the scores spread out, okay, it allows us to see where they also fall relative to a normative data. Is their brain processing speed, slower? Now, how is that important in school? Because maybe a child needs more time accommodations to complete things. And so when we can see that, we can go back and tell the parents and tell the school board, this student's going to need time accommodations for them to process it. So we can objectively see those scores. And then more importantly, as we're doing the treatment plan, we remeasure and we can see, is the variability getting better?
Yeah.
Are they getting more correct responses faster than the norm? Because I don't want someone to quote unquote be normal. I want to optimize their ability to focus. And for some of our clients, it may not be visual. It could be auditory. And so it's really, and again, I've had some people where we've done the tests and what we found out, it wasn't ADD at all. They had an auditory processing issue. We've had some clients where they had a vision issue. And all of a sudden when they got their vision corrected, guess what happened to their focus? So to me, that's one of the reasons why it's so important, in my opinion, to, we want to look at the metabolic. Is there maybe they have heavy metals in their system. Maybe there's a thyroid issue going on. And if you have, hypothyroidism, you're going to have a lot of low energy. Is that going to impact your ability to focus?
Yeah.
So when you have objective measurements, to me, it allows people to see why they might be. So for the example, the brain scan, if we see a lot of delta and theta brainwave activity, now that can explain why those scores are more variable. And then now we know exactly what we can do to help that person to feel better.
Good. So you take more of a scientific approach where you're using science, you're using data, you're using real-time information from the person, as well as interviewing them what they say and also what they do and how their brain is performing in order to come up with your treatment plan.
Exactly.
That makes sense?